Good morning. Good morning. It is 6:32. It is April 24th. April 24th. Why does that sound so familiar? Oh, it's Red Dog's anniversary. It's 21 years ago. I was married in the Bahamas with 100 of my best friends and family. Anyway, with that being said, you got to celebrate, small wins in the markets, occasions in life, and, you know, be in the moment during the process. And here we are on Thursday morning where, I would think I was actually said to some of the guys yesterday, I'm like, after the 2 days that we had where they sold the market into strength, I wouldn't be so surprised if we open down a little bit and try and go from red to green and pack and fill and try and figure out what type of commitment we have to whatever it is that we're doing here. Makes a lot of sense. Sometimes you got to just know where we are in the range and have realistic expectations. And with that being said, I woke up this morning. I saw Europe down a little bit, Asia down a little bit. The futures were down like 40 handles, and now we're only down like 15. So some days there's a lot of things to do, and some days there isn't. But all in all, you take a look here. You take a look at the the little W from the V here. You had the 481 low, right up into resistance, and then you had a higher low, which was somewhat constructive, into resistance again. This 544 to 545 after a move from 548, kind of knew that would be tough. So yesterday I was in the trimming mood. I was really, really, I was pretty, not really, really big, but I was pretty big, on Tuesday into yesterday, and I sold most of everything in the first 20 minutes, a lot of my options, a lot of my stock to get smaller, to net money, to figure it out. I even sold from 545, 546 calls, and PS, we kind of faded throughout the course of the morning. And now in my head, I'm like, okay, if we're going to be any good and hold this upper third of this move and make a higher low, we need to hold 527 to 529. This morning we were lower. Like right now we're only down a point. We were as low as 531 coming off the lows, down a point where people are like, Red Dog, did you see China said they're not even talking? Trump thinks we're going to, saying we're having beautiful conversations. Besant is saying that they can't do this, and China says they're not talking. There's so much rhetoric back and forth. I think the market's getting a little bit numb. I think more important is what's going on with earnings, what's going on with guidance, and it's pretty mixed. Some things are down enough that they could bounce, and some things, aren't. So we'll see. Bottom line is, we're right around 534. We're not even below yesterday's low. So if we were to hold in here, if we were to go sideways and digest here, I would think there's a chance we take out this resistance and go a little bit more. But we'll see. We kind of know what's stronger. We kind of know, what's moved up the go-to list, where the strength is. First, before we get into that, you can go to the Qs. The Qs also 452.89. What are the Qs doing right now? The Qs are down $1.35, so pretty in line with the SPYs at 453. So we're above this, so now we're back above this area. It would have been nice to be a little bit lower. I would have liked to buy in the hole to go red to green, because you couldn't buy yesterday. You had to be long yesterday. If you bought anything yesterday for more than 10 minutes, you were down money. It's just the way the market is. You got to know where we're at, where we are, et cetera, et cetera. So the Qs are now above this. Do the Qs hang out inside above this gap? That would be, again, pretty impressive due to the fact of everything that's going on in the world. So we'll see. As far as, really quickly in mega cap tech land, Netflix still is best in breed. Netflix is still building it. I have an eye on it. This 1064 is the all-time high. It got through 998 post numbers. If it could hold 1032 and go sideways, there's a chance it takes out that number and you can get a nice little trade there. Let's go. Let's see what Netflix is doing this morning. Netflix is down 3. So the longer this thing holds this 1032 and builds an upper bull flag, the higher the probability it could take that out for a nice trade. So I have an eye on that. That's something. You could either, so the way I would frame this today, which I will do for the Alpha team and for Redler All Access, because I put 40 charts out there. Actually, this is what I said yesterday. So the way I would do it is say, you could say Netflix is, so you go here, I write it in there every day, so this way people can see my thoughts. Netflix is best in breed. Some say tariff proof, pet tariff, resilient, whatever you want to say, tariff whatever, tariff proof, you can be long versus, if you want to be super active, it would be 1032. If you want to be a little less active, like if you don't trade so much for a living, you can be long versus, just say 998. Netflix sometimes gets loose and wide. Or if you trade super, actively, wait for it to get and stay above 1064 to open the door for new all-time highs. So this is the kind of thing I do every single day for about 40 charts. Okay, so this way you can see the chart, you can see the strategy, whichever way you want to do it. And then what I do is I save it like this. And then what'll happen is I'll take it and I'll put the chart. You go right here. So this is the alpha team. It's really easy. I can go like that, and then I can go post alert and go right here. And this, goes like this. And there's Netflix. So now I could post that to my 500 best friends around the world who want to see my chart. Anyway, isn't technology beautiful? Beautiful. Anyway, that's Netflix. Not a lot of things look like Netflix. Then you have middle ground stuff. Just say Apple. Apple kind of is middle ground. It wasn't as low. It was kind of inside. Bank of America did lower their handset, so we'll see what happens here. Remember, yesterday I said you could sell it into the 206, 208 area. Now you have 202.80. Does it hold 202.80? Right now, Apple is what's Apple doing? Apple is down $1.60 at 202.90. Maybe wants to fill the gap. So I'm not going to package that right now, but different things. And then you had, Meta was off lows. It's, we said Meta will probably, get resistance into the 21-day, and so now you could say, hey, Steve, Meta holds this gap here, tries to digest, doesn't really look so good. This is what, 516. So 516 is yesterday's, what's it called? Gap support. So I would say, hey, it was the weakest one. It actually made a new low on 2025, so it's not great. I haven't really been playing Meta that much, to be honest. So now you have 290 right there. This is 516. So I would say, Meta was the weakest name, tested the 2025 lows while other names haven't. Perhaps you could buy verse 516 if it's going to try and rebuild and go sideways. That would be the thought process. Then if you want to see something like Tesla, you could say, hey, Tesla quarter was not good, right? It just wasn't good. But, from 488 to 439 to 367 down, everybody in the world knew that Tesla's quarter wasn't going to be good. Tesla's out there, Elon Musk, is out there with Doge trying to clean up the fraud, whatever that means. There probably is a lot of fraud out there, but it's also, I think he's doing some damage to some, collateral agencies that have good people working there, but I'm not going to get into that. But anyway, 244, that's it. So if you want to frame this one, it came up, it kind of held in there. It's at the low end of the range. If this is going to be any good, any interesting at all, it needs to hold 244. If Tesla can't hold 244, which is, $4 above it, and then it breaks below it, chances are, unless he comes out with news that he's leaving Doge tomorrow, he still said that he's going to be there one day a week or this or that. The brand has been hurt around the world. It also has been hurt domestically. And, although you want to look into AI and robotics and, autonomous driving and robo-taxis, it keeps getting pushed out. But anyway, so again, if you want to see how does Red Dog frame things, I would say, you go Tesla report was not good. They tried to give it a pass. If this is going to stay constructive, at all, it should hold 244-ish. Maybe you can buy verse that to go green. Obviously I'm not discussing, I'm not out of a think tank. I'm not going to Harvard. I don't have 1,000 people behind me. I don't have analysts. This is me sitting here at 6:42 in the morning, going over my charts, which I do every day. put valid points in. 262's resistance, 277's there. And this is the follow-up to Tesla. I will look at it today. I have some TSLL calls. I probably will try it, to see if it goes green. And if it doesn't go green and it breaks 244 and it looks like it's going back towards the lows, then you know what? I'll be done with it for a while. I trade Tesla a lot less now. It's not the same special name as it was a year ago or right after the election when you had this big gap and go and it was above the 8-day. Remember I talked about when things are above the 8-day moving average, they're strong, there's momentum, you can stay with them. When they're below, you got to be careful and just pick your spots. What looks a little different? Palantir looks a little different. Palantir is above all the moving averages. Palantir hit 103.76. I was a buyer, earlier this week. I sold some strength. I still have some. I'll probably buy a little bit this morning. See if it goes red to green. What's Palantir doing? It was down $2. It's down 49 cents. I think, if this could hold 97.83 now and go a little sideways, I think, it's a go-to name. This is on the A list if you're looking for strong names. Everything else is on the B and the C list. As far as Bitcoin, what a move. We had a great move. I got a toot. Anyway, hopefully you made good money. Not only did I try and tell the world on how to navigate it, I did it myself and made good money. So it's always good when you could bring other people, into a situation that makes them money and you can make yourself money. That's what we're here for. That's what I've been doing for 20 plus years. Anyway, IBIT hit a high of 53.84. My target was only 53 from down here. So now you could probably go like this. Let the moving averages catch up. This low here is what, 52.27. It's a little extended. I'm the smallest I've been since Friday. It's down 50 cents. Maybe I buy a little bit, but I have a feeling it's going to have to sit here a little bit before it goes again. So that's how you use a tier system. I was long the $50 calls in IBIT and it had a move up. Sold the $50 calls on the pullback. I bought $51 calls and I bought the stock and then I sold most of it into that. And now I'm just sitting in the IBIT to stay engaged. That's how you manage your process. Let me say hello to some of my dogs around the world. They got 20 comments coming in here. This is where you could see them. You could see them right here. Okay, so Space Specialist says Intel reports at 4 p.m. I'm not really that interested. Yes, Bitcoin was finally a nice money trade. I'm glad you caught it. GME, I did sell. It didn't act great. I'm going to take I'll take a little look at GME. What's GME doing right now? GME, maybe you could buy a dip here. It wasn't so great. It was better to be in, Mr. Ali Hassan. How are you, Ali? Good morning. Tony says IBIT needs a rest. I agree. All I want for my birthday is a China tariff pause for 90 days. All right, Jim. Hoping and praying doesn't work. Managing your process and controlling what you can control helps. Good morning, Scott and everyone. What's up, Richard Judge? How you doing? Michael B. Morning, everyone. Pounding the table on my favorite battery stock again. MVST, much better than QS. Your price target is 10. All right, Michael B. Let's take a look at that one. MVST. I don't really know it. MVST. Oh, look at that little move. That had a nice move. You're right. So far, 1, 2, 3, 4 up days. Pretty interesting. I would say someone could put this on the radar. It came right into resistance. Here's your high. Not so bad. I would say let the moving averages catch up. Let it come into here. This was your day to buy it. Nice looking chart, Mike. Who said this? That was there you go. Do you buy long calls or swing trade? Thank you for I don't know what you're asking about. Are you open to short some gold? I think so. I'm very small, so I did play gold to the downside. I made a really nice money, into this big gap up in GLD. I was buying the 310 puts, and then basically, or no, even the 312 puts. I don't remember exactly. And then it went from green to red, came all the way in. My puts doubled. I sold some and rallied back up. I added a lower strike just to roll it down. So now, gold is up a little bit, trying to fill this gap. Do I think that this is the low? I don't know. Who knows? Maybe just get an upper range now. You don't want to sometimes turn a really good trade into an over trade. Right now, the GLDs are up 3. It's a 307. If you covered most of your gold short into this 359 at 307, I would rather see you maybe fade a little bit into that. You can get a topping tail that way. Can you buy puts and make money? If you're going to buy puts, you have to get a big move. You just had a huge 2-day down move. I make a living finding those moves. That's like what I do. I try and find extreme situations. Besides riding trends, when we're in a trend, I love to be in a trend, but the S&P and the Qs are not in an uptrend. They are in a consolidation, trying to figure out what's next. But yeah, 307 to 309-ish. That's probably where sellers need to come in if you're looking to, to re-short gold if you covered into this 300 and change. Thanks, Scott. I traded prop with you guys. Nice. I always appreciate the work. I appreciate you trying to help. That's great. I think you're on the alpha team. I'm not sure. Do you prefer buying long call options or swim? I do everything. As I said before, I have 7 different accounts. 7. No, 7. A bunch of them are long term. Yes, they are. I have my 401k, which I say if you have a 401k, you put money to work every single month. I cost average it in. When you have corrective phases like this, like you had now in 2020, in 2018, in 2007 through 9, those help your average cost over time. You do not stop cost averaging in. If anything, you add. Then I have the blood in the street account for when we're 10% or more off highs. Then I have a 529 for Chase. He's a sophomore. Big decisions for us soon. Anyway, and then I have an active account to take advantage of over emotion. I have a swing account for when the market's trending. I have an option account for binary events. Then I have a box account that makes me make more money or lose more money. Anyway, so having multiple accounts can help you approach the market in a lot of different ways. To day trade for cash flow or for swing trades. And right now I have a few things on that I'm trying to figure out if we will see some commitment to the move that we just had. Going back to the SPYs one more time here. Feels like the SPYs are coming up because my P&L is going up a little bit. I have a little SPYs on, only down 15 cents now. They already took the down $4 to only down 15 cents trade away. So at this point, trading is like 24 hours a day. People are like, Redler, when are you going to be trading futures all night? Or when are you going to trade on Robinhood or Schwab? I go, you know what? I'm up at 4:45 every day. I'm in the sauna at 5:20. I'm working out. I'm getting my mind right. I have actually hundreds of people that do that with me every morning now, which is pretty damn cool. I get here, I do the 6:30 club, I mark up my 20 charts, then I'm done, and then I do the 40 charts for the Alpha team for Redler All Access, do my morning call, get on the radio, then I start trading. So by 11:45, I take a little break. I do a little lunch workout, do my push-ups, and then I trade the close. So the last thing I need to be doing is trading all night. Just it is what it is. I have my positions, I have my reasons. But if we have to do a few things here and there because the landscape changes, I've seen the landscape and the structure of the markets change a lot. But anyway, for now, I'm trying to stick with the same, hourly, whatever. So here we are. SPYs are back above 533. If it were to hold right here, that'd be pretty impressive. The longer we hold here, maybe for a day or two, the higher the probability we break above that. If we were to break below this, then it gets just a little choppier, and you just have to know your levels, and that's what we do. All right, my dogs. Have a great day. See you on the other side.